Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Bryan here, the Web Design Educator at Shaw Academy, and you're all extremely welcome to Lesson 8 of the Diploma in Web Design Part 2. So hello everyone out there. So hopefully you can all hear me. Very good, very good. Well, I can see you all coming in. So hi there, Vanessa. Hi there, Alfred, Wayne, Simone, David, Marcus, Jeffrey, Alexandra, James, Michael, Histro. Hi there, Sue. Hi there, Victor. Hi there, Paula. Hello there, everyone. So fantastic. So very good. So we got a full class in again today. So we're at lesson 8. So far we've actually covered quite a bit in this course so far. We've gone through HTML5, the semantic web, Web 3.0, that's where we are now. So we're moving out of Web 2.0 because Web 2.0 is just what the web is now. You know, we expect our users to interact with us at some level. So Web 2.0 is now just the web. So we're transitioned into Web 3.0, the semantic web. And that's when we covered all those new HTML tags where we no longer just have divs. So you can almost think of divs as, primal language, when people would grunt and point at things until eventually they started naming things. You could get away with just grunting and pointing at a tree and then doing the same grunt and pointing at a rock, and people would understand what you meant, within reason. But now the language has evolved a tiny bit. We've got header. We're able to say that this is a header, this is an article, this is a section, this is a side. This has nothing to do with it whatsoever. So this is the web that we're moving into. So in this lesson, what I'd like to start with doing is just recapping some of the major things that we've covered. So I just want to go through, file paths again, and then some tags and stuff like that. And then I just want to quickly just dip into RESS, again, just the theory of RESS, and show you some resources online for it. And then if you don't mind, I'll actually ask the class now, would you guys like to learn how to build with Bootstrap, how to install Bootstrap on a local server? Would that be beneficial to you guys? Alright, well that chat box just lighted up like wildfire. Alright. So that wasn't actually meant to be in this lesson whatsoever. That's not actually meant to be in this course whatsoever. But what I've noticed after talking with my students and getting feedback and just seeing how you're operating on the course, I think it would be highly beneficial to every student out there to be able to install WordPress on a local server. So what we're going to do after this, so after we go through the theory, after we just recap the course that we've gone so far, and after we've gone through just a little bit about REST, then I'm going to show you how to install a server on your local machine. And that means that on our practical lesson, we'll actually install WordPress there. So I'll tell you right now what I would really like the tasks to be for this week. So what's going to happen is, so I'm sure a lot of you have been playing around with themes. Have we all had a good play around with those themes, with those Bootstrap themes? Started just messing around with the designs, editing a few things, and stuff like that. Well, they are quite heavy. Like there is a lot of content there. Now we can convert them. We can convert them into CodePen projects, which would be good because they're nice and easy to share. But we're going to do something that I told you in the introduction course that we shouldn't do. I'll show you some free hosting providers. Yeah, so I'll show you I'm just going to go to 2 of them. Something you can set up a free host. Now, whatever you do, never host a client's project up here. Never host anything that you really want to, this is just for testing. This is just for your own fun. It's something akin to CodePen. You'd never use it for professional development, and you'd never use it, if you're going for a job interview or if you want to show something to a client. You wouldn't show it to them on these free hosting. You wouldn't ever do that. It's actually very safe, Wayne. It's just not very professional looking. If the minute you buy a host, so say if you go onto any of the hosting providers out there and you get a host, people take you much more seriously when you don't have an @Google, an @Google email address or an @Hotmail or an @Outlook. If you go on and you spend just a few dollars, just a few euro, just to get yourself a domain, and you get yourself one of those bigger hosting packages where you can host unlimited, you pay an extra $1 a month to hold as many things there. Well, that's your testing ground. Like I said, I got mine back in, I think 2012 is the first time I bought a hosting package, and I've been using it ever since. I'm hosting at least 15 websites up there at the moment. It's all still running very smoothly. And I've got my own email address out of it, and I can give other people their own email addresses out of it as well. Alright, so what we will do at the end of it, because I do want to start seeing your projects, and I saw, who was that, someone posted in the Advanced Web Design group, I saw that pop up about about trying to share your projects. So that is a slight problem we're going to have in the advanced course. Sharing our projects, we're going to need some kind of server. So we will go about setting up just one of those free servers just to host our testing, just for ourselves, just for testing, just for sharing our work. But just be aware that if you move into the professional environment, or if you do want to share your work with anyone who's going to, review it and judge you by your work, well, then you're going to want to have yourself your own host. You're going to be able to want them to point them to your own brand, because that's really what it is. A website is an asset to you, and it is an asset. So when you get yourself a good domain name, and then you can direct all your traffic there as well. Sorry, just 2 seconds. Just have a few questions coming up. 2 seconds. Will I be able to show you how to set up an email HTML newsletter to be emailed out at some stage? I never actually write email newsletters myself, from strict HTML. HTML newsletters, they're really back in, I'm pretty sure they're still written in HTML version 2. Because, it just works. It's such an old version of the language that everything inside there has been implemented. But really, the best things, if you are looking for an email campaign, I would recommend something like, what is that? Is it Constant Contact is the one I was using a number of years ago. MailChimp is also very popular out there. There's loads of great things to do to make your news, to write your HTML newsletters. And quite honestly, if you're going to take the time to create newsletters and stuff like that, you're going to want tracking codes. You're going to want all that kind of stuff. If you're putting that much time into the newsletter, the most benefit you can get from a newsletter is seeing if it's working. You want to know how many people received it, how many times it bounced back, how many people clicked on it, how many people read it. You want all that. That's the whole point of an email newsletter, is really to get data. Yeah, you want to see how many people saw your product and how many people bought it. It's not really to drive conversions are a very small part of the newsletter. It's really all the data you grab off of people reading the newsletters and the content that you put in there. So something like MailChimp, something like Constant Contact, those kind of services are perfect for stuff like that. If you want to create a HTML newsletter though, if you have a Mac, you just create a new one. You just create a new one. Thank you for that, Marcus. They cover it all in the marketing course here. So if you want to learn more about marketing, in fact, Sue, if you don't have the time to attend them all right now, just drop us an email, and I'm sure someone there will be able to get back to you. And sure, if you're here, it means that you've got access to all the courses. So add them in there, and you'll be able to drop into that lesson as well to get your marketing. Because don't forget, guys, as web designers, it really depends on what level you want to go at, but if you want to enter the professional environment, you do have to be taking the web development course. You should be auditing at least some of the graphic design courses here. Definitely any kind of the marketing or the digital marketing or any kind of the social media marketing. All of these things need to be added into your skill set. They really do need to be added into your skill set to enter the professional environment. You can learn them by yourself, and you can go and you can pick them up as time goes on. But hey, you're here. You can add all these courses and get all that support while you're moving along anyway. So you should take full advantage while you're here. I'm not actually. Sorry, Wayne has a question regarding checking a site with built with under the relationship tab. What does the related domains mean? Just before we go into this, let me just take a quick look. Built with. Where is the related? Oh, this one here? I haven't looked at that. Oh, I'll go into a normal site, Shaw Academy. So we'll just take a quick look. Built with. Are you talking about this tab up here? Is it relationships? Yeah, let's take a look. All right, attributes. I don't actually know. Let me see here. Related domains. These could be backlink domains. Related domains these are domains that are actually related to us. All right, so that's Academy FT. We were originally Academy of Financial Trading. That's when Shaw Academy first realized that you can teach online and it works very, very effectively. And you can see some other things here. So live financial trading, live nutrition. These all seem to be our websites that are all linked to this domain. I'm not sure what these are. These look to me like tracking. These look to me like analytical tracking. That is almost definitely analytical tracking. Facebook pixel tag usage. So I'd say they are some kind of tracking. I really use built with just to see if a site, really what I use built with is just to see if a site was built with WordPress or not. That's really what I use Built With for, just so that when you come across an amazing design with all these crazy features, you want to know how much effort the the actual designer put into it, and just to for your own self assurance to know that you haven't fallen that far behind. That's really what it does. Your IP address is pretty much public. All your IP addresses are pretty much public to everyone. Collecting IP addresses is just part of analytical tracking. That's exactly what you want to do because you want to know how many users are coming to your country, are coming to your website from a particular country. It's no good knowing that, you've got 5,000 users coming on every single day and you're wondering why they're not converting. Well, if you didn't have their IP addresses, you wouldn't know which country they're from. Then you'd see straight away if there was some clicking farm out in the Middle East who were just clicking onto your website. Well, then you could see that straight away. All right, so let me just quickly take a look. And sorry, Taisir asks, if you want to work as a freelance web designer, should you learn PHP? You should certainly learn the basics of PHP, Taisir. You should certainly learn the basics of it. Something that would be much more important to a freelance web designer would be JavaScript. Because with JavaScript, you can do... because JavaScript can be used to edit your HTML and CSS and create functionality that just isn't there yet. It's stuff that's coming out that will be coming out in the future versions of the language. But all these kind of future stuff, when someone comes up with a great idea and goes, we should include this in CSS in the future version of CSS, well, you can most likely accomplish it if you're being very clever with JavaScript. So I would say JavaScript is far more important than PHP. If you're going to learn PHP, well, then you'll actually end up being a web developer if you are actively working with it. The final assignment is going to be multiple choice questions, and now we will get around to that. Let's see, we're lesson 8, so lesson 9. So we will be discussing the final assignment in full in the next theory session, and I'll give you a quick rundown of how it all works. But listen, guys, you'll all be grand because, like I said from the very start, these exams. You can learn all the theory you want, and you can get the exam, and that's your piece of paper to get yourself in the door, to hang up on your wall, and everything like that. And everyone goes, great. But anyone who has an interest in what you are doing as a designer, as a developer, they need to see your work, and that is really what it comes down to. So that diploma is your golden ticket of advertising. Yeah, you put that up on your wall, and people look at it and go, "Oh my God, he knows web design. He knows all that kind of stuff." And then they'll always ask, like, "Can I see something you made?" It's or "Where's your work?" And that will always be what it comes down to. So that's kind of like your golden advertisement is those diplomas. No, sorry, Tassir said that a web designer told him that it's better to learn jQuery before learning JavaScript. No, you should always learn the vanilla languages first. You should always learn the root languages before you break into their easier counterparts. It's even just better for progression. If you go into using jQuery, you'll never take the time to learn JavaScript. Believe me, you never will take the time to learn JavaScript if you do learn jQuery. But jQuery makes much more sense when you have JavaScript. And plus, you can make it, and you can always dip back into JavaScript if jQuery is lacking in any kind of functionality whatsoever. You can always dip back into JavaScript. But JavaScript is, you should always learn the vanilla languages. At least get a good grounding in the vanilla languages before you break into their write less, do more counterparts. W3 Schools is great. It is a great resource. They do have a lot of stuff on there. There are a lot more that I do prefer though. The W3 Schools are fantastic. Like W3SCHOOLS. So W3 Schools, they are fantastic. What I don't like, we see it's not their fault because they've been around for so long, but W3 people confuse them a lot with W3.org. People confuse them with the World Wide Web Consortium. In fact, I believe they even have a disclaimer. They have a disclaimer down here someplace. I know they do because I saw it before. And they make it very clear that they are not W3, that they are not the World Wide Web Consortium. I like these guys. I prefer Mozilla's. Now, I do prefer Mozilla's Mozilla developer. Let's take a quick look here. Just another great resource. I do prefer Mozilla's. I don't know why, I just do. If any of you got my welcome pack from the introduction course, that long list of HTML elements, that was actually provided by Mozilla, and I just touched it up a bit so it was easier to read. But yeah, I much prefer Mozilla. They seem to, and plus Mozilla, they own the browser. They're constantly on top of it. They're constantly giving you excellent knowledge and all that kind of stuff. But W3 Schools, it's fantastic for just what I always just go like text SHA. I guarantee it's going to be already marked red for me. CSS, so stuff like that. So yeah, so of course they're going to come up straight away, and it's great to just scan through. It's like, perfect, that's exactly what it is. It just gives me a few of the details. So it is nice and clean and simple. If you want really in-depth knowledge, I'd say Mozilla is the best place to go, though, if you want to really study things. I use W3 Schools as a reference point. If I forget, which order does that go in, I just type it in, and I get it from W3 Schools. But if I want to know why it's like that, I'll go on to Mozilla. Okay. Perfect. All right. So let us very quickly run through just a recap of some of the important things that we've done so far, and just some of the important knowledge that is scalable. So first of all, the file paths. So what I'll do is I'll actually ask you questions, because it might make it easier for you to make it easier for it to stick. So I'll put this up here. So if I start with just a /, yeah. So if I start with just a /, where does the directory start? Exactly right, guys. It returns to the root or the home directory, yes. So it returns to the root or home directory. So if I start with a /, so if I start a file path, what I can do is I can open up my text wrangler very quickly, and I'll do this. Sorry, Notepad++, I'll put that up there. So if I had a img src is equal to, and then I'll just close that off like that. So I have image source is equal to, if I was to say logo.png, where is that logo located? Is it in a parent? Is it in a parent folder? Is it in a child folder? Or is it in the current folder? All right, it's in the current folder. Exactly right, guys. It's in the current folder, because I'm not telling you to go anywhere. It's just meant to find a file called logo.png. So it is the current file. Now, if I was to put a / before it, yeah, and just a /, if I was to put /, very good, guys. Very good. So now I'm looking for the root or the home directory. So go back to the root directory. Now, the problem with developing locally is that if you don't run your work from a server, which we'll be covering later on, but if we don't run our work from a server, what happens is that, let me just pull up my, here we go. That'll do perfectly. So here's this. So if I had something that was inside here, so say this website copy, if I had another document in here and I wanted to suck in this website copy.txt file, and I put a / in front of it. Now, if I double clicked on my index.html file, imagine there's one there. If I double clicked on that and I said like, and I pretend that this is my root folder, well, that's not my root folder. My root folder is all the way back here at the C drive, you see? So I got C drive and the /, and you've got all those folders before it. On a server, your root folder will always be just, your server is the root folder there, so it's normally stored like all the way back at that root folder. It would almost like be the C drive. Is it better to work directly on a server, asked James. James, I'm in two worlds about this. You see, I was always told that it's better to work locally and then always transfer your work onto the web. Now, there's plenty of reasons that I actually prefer to develop on the web. So if I'm developing with Bootstrap, for example, I will always be developing locally. I always do, because it's much easier to maintain all the files and all that kind of stuff. If I'm developing with a CMS, I will always do it online. I just always prefer to do it on the server, so that I don't have to migrate it later. Because if you develop with something like WordPress on your local machine, you then have to run a find and replace on the whole database. You actually have to you have to run a huge find and replace on the whole database. And if you mess it up, you lose your site. Yes, you have to make sure you make a backup, because if you mess up one / or if you forget one instance where it might be just a slightly different, and because you have to add your actual domain name in then, because all of a sudden no longer are you working off your root folder and all that kind of stuff. So I do prefer to do that. Now here's the thing. if you are broadcasting out to the search engines. So we'll be covering that next week, and that will actually help us as well if we get when we get WordPress done this week, because we'll be able to look at all the analytical software, how to add it all in, and how to use like Yoast plugins and all that kind of stuff to really climb the rankings. But if you're already broadcasting to Google while you're developing and you're letting Google index your site, it can damage your SEO. It can damage your SEO. Now, a trick that I have been doing, and I've seen results on it. Now, I haven't been tracking the results, but I have seen results. Just what I imagine, because I'd be going out to Google and then I check the site. What I normally do is I get say a WordPress site. If I'm doing one of those for clients, I'll develop the whole site. And then at the end, we're just fixing a bit of copy. We're adding some more images. But once the whole site is there, once the menu is perfect, once all the page templates are good, and then we're just adding in more stuff, then what I do is then I just turn on the SEO. Then I tell Google that we're here. Because the best thing that Google loves to see is fresh, current, relevant content. Yes, so you don't lie to Google. You don't tell them that your website is about cats if it's about dogs. You don't tell them that your website is about charity when it's all about advertisements. You don't do stuff like that. You can be completely honest with Google, and then Google will provide people who are actually looking for your site. Yeah? So if you're perfectly honest with telling Google what your site's about, they are best able to deliver that to people who are searching for your site. So as you can imagine, if they do like fresh, current content, because if you have a website up there and, a user has read the whole thing, Google provide tailored results. So if a user has already read your site, and loads of users have already read your site, and then there's other sites giving, more current content, well then you're going to slowly start falling down the rankings, because Google knows that everybody has already read your article. They're not going to provide it to those same people again because they know they've already read it. It's no good to them. They want new things. Of course, they're searching again, so they must be looking for some new information. So it's just about thinking logically. It's almost like I always say, just try to treat these search engines as if they're actual people, because that's what Google are trying to do. That's what Bing are trying to do. They're trying to mimic how a human will actually think, how a human actually finds information, because that is the best way to do it. That's their whole reasoning behind OK Google. With their voice search, they want you to have a natural question. It's not, what am I trying to think of? It's not the way that you normally search Google, like text shadow CSS. That's not a question, but that's what I type into Google. If I was to type, but if I was to ask Google on my phone and I wasn't able to type, well then I would actually ask an actual question. I would go, OK Google, how do I use text shadow in CSS? It's a natural question that they're trying to get out there. They're trying to become more natural, and then that will all flow into AI and everything else that's coming down the line. Alright, so that's our root folder anyway. Sorry, we went off on a little tangent. So we have our root folder as the /. We have just nothing in front of it to search the current folder. What happens if I go ... Ooh, almost. Ooh, we're getting some things. So ... will bring me back one directory. All right. So ... will bring me back one directory. So it doesn't matter where this image is. What will happen is that this document here, this HTML document, this will tell it to go back one folder. So if this HTML document is in, portfolio, is in the portfolio page of everything, or actually no, even better. If this was actually most likely when you come across stuff like that, this would actually be a CSS document, yeah? So it would be BACKGROUND image. So let's go like this actually, because this would probably make more sense. Alright, because sometimes, your CSS documents are probably in your CSS folder, so you'll need to tell, so if your CSS document is in a CSS folder, well then you're normally telling it to go back, and then what would happen is, so you go back one, and then go into images, IMGs, and then go forward, and then go into logo.png, yeah? Perfect. Alright. So, and then of course, what if I was to do ... whoops. So now, where am I telling it to go now? It's getting a little bit more complicated, but this does happen. Yes, exactly right, guys. Exactly right. Move back two folders. So that's just the way the dot dot works. So dot dot forward slash will tell you to move back a folder. You add two of them. It goes back two folders, and so on and so forth. And if you want to move forward, all you have to do is then you just don't have anything prefixing it. So if my images, so if this CSS document was in the root folder, and on the same level there was an image folder, well, that's how I go into the image folder. I just type img because that's going to find the image folder, and then it's going to say, all right, so then go into that image folder and then find me the logo.png image. Yep. So I'll just bring up that slide again so you can see them all grouped together. So that was that there. So starting with a forward slash returns to the root directory and starts there. Starting with the dot dot forward slash moves one directory backwards and starts there. And starting with two of them, so on and so forth. And then to move forward, just start with the first subdirectory and keep moving forward. Yeah. So just start with whatever folder and just start and then start moving forward from there. Perfect. So we saw all our new semantic tags as well, and this was all from the first week. So we saw our new semantic tags, and we have header and nav and section aside and footer and hopefully it's making a little bit more sense to you, these new semantic tags, because they are semantic, because that's what they are semantic. They have meaning in the real world. It's kind of trying to describe to a computer how our document is laid out. It can be confusing. Now, they don't make or break your website. They really don't make or break your website. But what they do is they can really help with your SEO. I know that Best Buy back in, I think it was, when was that? Was that 2012? When these new tags first came out, Best Buy decided to mark up their whole product database with these new tags. So to, say that this part here, that the aside part, they had aside tags to say that this is actually not part of this product. This is a section, this is an article, and they had all their products sectioned into in articles, and they had all their parent categories categorized into sections. They saw a 33% increase in sales. Not only search engine, they climbed up the rankings, but they also saw a 33% increase in, I'm pretty sure it was sales as well, but that was really driven by the SEO going up and just Google being able to understand, this is a VCR, someone's looking for a VCR, well, not VCR in 2012, someone's looking for not Blu-ray either, someone's looking for a DVD player. Someone's looking for a DVD player. Someone's looking for a Sony DVD player that can, store DVDs. Well, because Best Buy had marked up their site in such a great way, Google was able to go, I can see exactly this is a Sony DVD player, this is what it does, and everything else around it has nothing to do with the product. This is exactly what my user is looking for. Here you go. Do you want to buy it? Yeah, sure. And that's how you do stuff like that. So that's the semantic web in action. And of course, then we had this. Oh, sorry, just very quickly, what about referencing a document not in the public HTML folder? Well, then you can use its full path URL. Well, if it's not in the public HTML folder, if it's not on your current server, well, it's on a different, it's located elsewhere. So you'd use a full path URL. You'd use HTTP or HTTPS ://www. And then wherever that other folder is to access it. And that's how you get out of your public HTML folder. So then we had this HTML5 flowchart as well. Alright, so if we have a main navigation block, we use the nav. Yep, so perfect. Oh, you're able to see what I'm seeing, so just 2 seconds. Just move this one over so I can stay ahead of us. So, if it's a main navigation block, so remember that's a main navigation block. It's not a group of links pointing to someplace else. This is a navigation, how to navigate your website. So do remember that. So those nav tags are not to be used for external links or just for any links that are just around your website. The nav block is for a main navigation block. It's so that the search engines and so that whatever else on the Internet of Things that will eventually suck all this kind of semantics in, we'll be able to know this is the navigation block. Next up, does it make sense by itself? Actually, I'll start asking the question before they pop up. But anyway, does it make sense by itself? So can it just be standalone? Could the user actually just print off that one section and then just have something to read? Well, in that case, we'd have an article, yes? So it would be just an article. A user would be able to print off that one article, and just that article by itself would actually make sense. It doesn't actually need anything else on the page. So it's a one self-contained article. So the next question, is it crucial to the current content? Yeah. So if it's not crucial to the current content, what should we be using? Very good, Lewis. Very good, Anne. Very good. Oh, sorry. Very good, Marcus. Very good, James. Very good, Lisa. So don't think where the logical step in this flowchart would be, but if it's not crucial to the current content. So remember, so I've got a nav block, I've got an article, and then I've got something that's, say, an advert, yeah? And I've got an advert. Is the advert's not crucial to the current article? It's not crucial to the page. There we have it. There we go, guys. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Well, in that case, we're going to want to have an aside. And the aside is a fantastic semantic element because it tells, because telling the search engines, telling the users, telling the Internet of Things what is important to your site is just as important as telling them what is not important to your site is just as important as telling them what is crucial to your site. Yeah, so aside is absolutely perfect for those kind of things. If it's not crucial to the current content, it's just a side note, or it's an advert, or it's something that you don't need to understand the current article. Now, could it be moved to an appendix? Yeah? So could it be moved to an appendix? So if you were to convert this into one of those old textbooks, say one of those old text-heavy college textbooks, where they do have articles, where they do have images in them, yeah? So if it could be moved to an appendix, what would be wrapping it in? This is a tricky one. This is a tricky one, because we don't really talk about this kind of stuff anymore. Well, I certainly don't, about appendices and all that kind of stuff. Close. Anyway, I'll give you the answer. Because this is a tough one anyway. The answer for this one is a figure. Yeah, so it's a figure. So say if you had a group of images that, say if I was talking about the web inventor Tim Berners-Lee and I had a history on his life. Well, then in the appendix and say underneath it, exactly right, figure 1, for example. Or if I was giving a demonstration on, or if I was talking about servers and then I had a generic image of a server, well then I could move that, I could wrap that group of server images and those group of examples into a figure. Or if you were writing a historical web page or an informational web page where the images are not crucial to understand the text, it's just something else to look at, well then you can move them to an appendix and they could be wrapped in a figure tag, yeah? So because you could have an article and inside that article you could have figure. Now, what if, so the next one was a bit tricky. So what if, would it make sense to have a heading on these? Yeah? So, oh yes, and a big 25-year anniversary and all that. Alright, so would it make sense to have a heading? So when we can use more than one heading, so a lot of the times when we can, because we can't have more than one heading one in an article. That's actually I should actually correct this part of the thing here. So would it make sense to have a heading? So remember our sections, yeah. So that's right, guys. That's right. So our sections are sections of, say, articles. So normally we'd have a section, and a section could normally contain a number of articles. So again, if we can remember the newspaper example, so we'd have the sports section, and within the sports section we'd have an article on baseball, and we'd have an article on rugby, and we'd have an article on football. But then, of course, another section will be the political section. And then in the political section, we'd have an article on European politics. We'd have an article on politics of Americas, on the politics of Asia and the Middle East and everything like that. So we have sections, and then within the sections, we can have a number of articles as well. The section doesn't have to make sense by itself. Alright, so a section doesn't necessarily make sense by itself. A section is, if it made sense just completely contained, if you just had a block of just a story about something, well then you'd be using an article. If you had a group of articles, then you could use a section. Now, some could argue that you could actually use that if you didn't have a group of articles, you could actually wrap it all in a section. But I would recommend, my style would actually to be wrapping things in articles rather than sections. Articles don't have to be children of sections. Yeah? So I consider a section to be a group of elements that be a group of elements that don't rely on each other. One is about baseball and rugby have nothing in common except for the fact that they are both sports. So they could both fall into a sports section. But as articles, they'd be standing alone. To have them both grouped together under one section and have them and not have them in any way separated, I don't think that would be very semantic. Because remember, the computers are stupid. They're a bunch of blinking lights. Everything that good, anything good coming out of any computer was initiated by a human. A human decided to sit down and write a program or ask a computer a particular question, and then use the computer as a tool. Because that's what they are. They're tools to perform services for us. Yeah. So would it make sense to have a heading, so a section? So I'm going to see if I can come up with a better title for this section of the flowchart. I would really say section is kind of like the new div. Yeah. So imagine. So we all know, like, we all should have a good idea of what an article is. Yeah. So an article is an article. It's a standalone piece, and while a section is kind of what we can replace a div with. Yeah. So we'd have a section of a page. Um, well, actually, Richard, take a look at what happens when you do add heading ones to sections and articles. You will notice that because of the semantics, because a heading one is not a stylistic, is not for style, because a heading one actually defines a heading, you will notice that it is actually comes out styled differently. That the browser will actually, in fact, style a heading one tag inside a section or an article differently as it would inside a div as well. You could, yes, yes, you can group articles. Would it make sense to group articles? Yes, yeah, I'll have to. That's actually a good one. Would it make sense to group them? Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll return to that anyway next week again. But anyway, any other semantic weight to the content, well then it's any other element. So remember, we've always had these kind of semantic tags. These are really just the new divs that we have. So we already had loads of semantic tags. We had the heading one, which has always been a semantic tag to define a heading, the primary heading. We had heading two, we had paragraphs, we had line breaks. So they're all the other semantic weights. So instead of using a span and using styling, so instead of just wrapping something in a span and then styling it up with CSS, it's always best to wrap things in. If it's a paragraph, wrap it in a P tag. If it's a heading one, wrap it in a heading one tag. Don't just make it big and bold and make it style really big. If it is a heading, wrap it in a heading tag. And then for anything else, and then if it has no semantic weight, if you're just trying to section something off so you can style it as a box, yeah, what do we have then? So if it's something that doesn't have a semantic weight, so just like how we had, just how we got rid of bold and I back in the previous version of the language, and then strong and EM came out, and then we got rid of strong and EM, and sorry, we kept strong and EM, but we need something that was unsemantic as well. Exactly right, guys. We will always have the div. The div is just a nice divider or a nice division that we can use to section off parts of our document and then target it later for styling. But pretty much for everything else, we've got articles, sections, figures, asides, and navs. The ones that you're mainly going to be using are nav, article, and section. I guarantee that the main ones you're going to be using are nav, article, and section, especially at any starter stage. Aside will be the next one that comes in, and then figures. They're really they're kind of specialist kind of things at this stage. We can approach those again when we go into these again next week. So relative lengths. So let me see. Can I do this a better way? So let me see if I can ask you the question. See if we can get it. Does a figure need to be an image? No, it doesn't. It could be a list. It could be a number of things. It could be anything that you can move to check out this figure. Figure one. Check out. It could be a diagram. It could be an image. It could be a range of things that are not crucial. It could be a table. Exactly right, Richard. It could be exactly. A figure is actually, in a lot of cases, it is a table. So there's loads of things a figure could be. So, relative lengths. So, relative to the font size of the element. Yes. It's not as easy when we're discussing what their definitions are. So relative to the font size of the element. Exactly right, guys. Exactly right. We have EM, which used to be the length of a capital M. Now, relative to the root size of the root element. Relative to the font size of the root element, I should say, sorry. Relative to the font size of the root element. Perfect, perfect, perfect. REM. So the root of EM. So the root EM. Because you'll notice if you're using EM a lot, if you're using EM in your designs and you're scrolling through them, you'll notice that that it is that if you have one thing and then you have another thing nested in and you use EM again, it's relative to the font size of the element that it's nested in. So it keeps going down like that. If you want them all to be the same, then it's REM, which will make it relative to the font size of the root element. Relative to 1% of the width of the viewport. Ooh, almost there. So relative to 1% of the width of the viewport. So the width of the viewport width, if you rather. All right. VW. So viewport width, relative to 1% of the width of the viewport. Now, a lot of us we can use 1%. I still prefer to use 1% in a lot of cases. But 1% is equivalent to the same thing as 1 VW. And then the last relative length, the next relative length we're going to cover is relative to 1% of the height of the viewport. There we go. So the viewport height is going to be VH. Now, I think VH is one of the most fantastic relative lengths to come out in all of web design, because it is the hardest thing. It's been one of the hardest thing, and it's the most annoying thing to try to get something to fill up the whole height of the page. We used to use a lot of JavaScript to compute it, but now we have view height, which is absolutely fantastic for doing stuff like that. So if you want a full page, you have a full page image. You want a full page image, you don't need to know the size of the screen, because you can make it 100 view H, which will make it the size of the viewport. And then, of course, the percentage of an element is. So if I want to say something is 20%, it's 20. Exactly right, guys. Nice and simple. 20%. 20%. So percentage of an element is going to be just the percentage sign. All right. And we had one more coming in, which was exactly. So we had one more coming in, which was the relative width of the zero. Yeah. So the relative width of a zero. Something that we don't really see around that much, but it could be useful depending on how much into design you actually go. So depending on how much into the actual, if you're ignoring HTML and ignoring all the computer just to make something look exactly pretty, like really stunning on the screen, well, that's really when you'll come into these other things like CH. Okay, now fixed lengths. So if I want a pixel, what's my symbol for pixel? Exactly right, guys. So we just have px for a pixel, which used to be a dot on the screen. So 1 pixel is now about 1/96th of an inch. We can't say it's a dot on the screen anymore because of retina displays. It doesn't really work like that anymore. Now, what if we want a point? So a point is worth 1/72 of an inch. Exactly right, guys. Just PT for points. And then we have picas as well. So we have 1 pica is equal to 12 points. How do we have picas? Very good, guys. Again, these are things that we don't use that often. So pica is PC. PC is for a pica. So again, some of these are things that things that we don't use that often, but it's very good to be aware of them, just in case, like, if you want your imagination to run wild, or if you come up with a crazy new idea, it's great to have all these things in your back pocket just to try them out. If nothing's working, try out another one, just see what happens. And then we have centimeters. So of course we can also design to centimeters and inches, stuff like that. So cm for centimeters. Exactly right, guys. Millimeters. Very good. And then inches is, of course, Very good, guys. And then inches. Now, as web designers, we try to stay away from centimeters, millimeters, and inches. We do try to stay away from those. They kind of work if you have if you're creating, say, a notice board or something that's going to go up on one screen. If it's not really connected to the internet, because you can use web design for a range of things. You know, notice boards in your office, notice boards in schools, all that kind of stuff. Billboards out in the street. If it doesn't need to actually be connected to the World Wide Web and accessible like that, well, then you can use stuff like cm, millimeters, and inches, because you're not developing a responsive design. You know, if you wanted to fit on one TV that's going to be stationary and not accessible to the internet, you can use HTML and CSS to create stunning visuals up there, and you can have all that extensibility of JavaScript and all that, and even make it interactive. And if you want to have it just designed perfectly for that one screen, well, that's when something like cm, millimeters, and inches can all really come into play. All right. Then so then in last week we were discussing the 6-step design process. So then we went into Bootstrap and we took a look at that and how all that works. But that's really all the same thing, you know. Like we have some sort of grid system. Framework is made up of CSS and grid systems and JavaScript files and fixes and all that kind of stuff. But really, what was the 6-step design process? So we had information gathering. So I'll actually run through these because it would be a bit long to type them all. So of course we had information gathering, and that's when we gather everything we can about the client. We just ask a lot of questions. Everything we want to know about them, we ask them. You know, what's your business about? Do you have images? Do you have employees? You know, what sections, what other things does your company do? And what are your goals? What are your desires? All of that kind of stuff. Who are you currently targeting? And what is your plan? Like, what do you want to get out of making this website? Everything you want to know, you grab it in information gathering, and you also get them to send over all the files that they have. The next step is planning. And that's really just planning, and that's just getting ready to plan your website. That's, you know, your low fidelity wireframes. It's just getting everything in order. During the planning stage, you're actually still asking your client or whoever you're building your site for a lot of their images, because, you know, they'll never get them all over the first time around. So during this planning stage, you're also asking for all that kind of stuff as well. Low fidelity wireframes, just to get it all down on paper, and just site maps, trying to get an idea of how big the build is. And that's probably the point where you're going to send them over your client brief and stuff like that. Now, guys, I said that I was going to show you one of my old client briefs. Now, I have taken a look at them. Every single one of them I have branded, and I've got so much information in them. So I will get you one over. I will get one over to you at some point over the next 2 weeks. But I might just have to make a new one, because there's too much. I put a lot of stuff in there, and it's all about their private business practices. So I wouldn't feel comfortable, of course, broadcasting them out to the world. They were private documents. So let me take a look. If I can find my old template. Well, then there'll be no problem mocking it up. The only problem, it is on a hard drive down in Waterford. So once I get a hold of that, I'll be able to send you over one. Or even if I can grab one from someone else as well, I'll be able to just send them over. But it is really quite simple. Remember, when you get over that brief to your client, it's just to wow them. You know, big images. You know, show off your design, show off your skills, and get them all the information over there as well. All right. So the next one down is we're not ready to start coding yet. The next one down is design. Exactly right, guys, exactly right. So the next one down is design, and that's when we start picking out our color schemes. If our clients need them, we start making high fidelity wireframes, really getting them, if they have any kind of issues with the price you're charging, or if they have any kind of issues in what they think your vision is, well, then you can give them a high fidelity wireframe if you're fast enough at making it up. Otherwise, you can just mock it up very quickly with some code and just leave out all the functionality. And that's really just where you start to really get down everything. And the design phase is when you start taking all the stuff you learned in information gathering. So your color scheme is going to be based on your target market, all that kind of stuff. So if you are whatever you're doing, if you're a big happy-go-lucky company, or if you're a happy-go-lucky product or something like that, well, you're going to want a color scheme that reflects that. You're not going to want just a plain boring color scheme. Then of course, if you are text heavy, then you might want to have less color, so it's not as distracting and it's easier on the eyes. Next one down, we have development, and now we are ready. Now we are ready to actually start coding our page. So now that we've got all those steps down, we'll have no problem getting in, because we've got all the copy there. And we saw that in the last lesson, did we not? We saw that once we had all the research done, all we needed was a template, and we could mark up a nice website in just 2 hours. We got the real bare bones. We got the real bulk of it done in a 2 hour in a 2 hour course, and that was with questions and going off on tangents and everything. Imagine if you were sitting down coding that yourself, and all it really is coming down to copy and paste, because once you've got these steps nailed down, it really can be a lot of your initial development can be copying and pasting. Because if you build a great website, hold on to it and use it again. You know, you've already got it, you took the time to build it, then you can use it again and again, and you can take code from previous developments and add them into new, and then you're just marking up new colors and everything like that as well. Now the last two steps are testing and delivery, and then maintenance. Yeah, so testing and delivering and maintenance. And the big thing about testing, oh, sorry. I've actually got all the steps here. So yes, so we've got that. We got the planning of the. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly skip through these because we will run out of time otherwise, and I want to go through the just show you the applications so you can try them out, and then I'll post up all the tutorials that I can find on setting up XAMPP and WAMP. And if you're having any trouble, do email us after that, and then we'll be able to get in contact, because I was talking to our web development, well, I was talking to Julian, of course, about the XAMPP and just trying to see what errors they've been having with the students with it. And there are a few things. Are many people out there using Windows 10? Yes, we got a few people out there using Windows 10. Who out there is? All right, let's just go with a yes, with a yes answer for. Are you using Windows 10? Perfect. All right. Alright, so that's a lot of people using Windows 10. Are there many Mac users out there? All Mac users, could you press 0, please, for me? Mac users, I'd like you to press 0. Alright, okay, so we got a few Mac users as well. And is anyone using something like Linux? Is anyone out there using Linux? Type 1 if you're using just Linux. Oh, we got some advanced some advanced computer enthusiasts out there. All right, okay, so we got Linux as well. All right, well then I think the best thing for us would be to use is XAMPP. Now I will show you all the applications. We'll just go through this very quickly, and then I will show you all the applications that we can use, and you can use whichever one that you prefer. I'll try to use XAMPP in this course, even though I love MAMP, the Mac Apache PHP and MAMP and PHP MyAdmin. But yeah, but I love that one. It's just so simple to use, but we'll try to use one that we can all see the same thing. So, of course, for the testing delivery, we're testing for a few things. We're testing for responsiveness, cross-browser, accessibility, code quality, no broken links, extremely important. That's no broken image links, that's no links going elsewhere that do not go anywhere, because the whole internet is based on this linking system. You know, HTML, the hypertext markup language, based on SGML. So hypertext was the big thing, being able to click on something and go someplace else. If you don't have that working, it's kind of defeating the whole purpose of having the web in the first place. And then, of course, usability, making sure that people can actually use our site as well. So if someone wants to use the nav bar, make sure they can use the nav bar. Make sure they can actually find the hamburger menu. If you're using a new design, if you're not using the hamburger menu or the 3 dots, if you're using some new design you mocked up yourself to say that this is the menu, give it to someone and tell them, you know, press the menu button, just to make sure that it is universal, to make sure other people do understand what it is. Load time, which is very important, and we can test all that as well. Right in the browser, you can right click and you can check on the resources how long they take to load. But the best way to do it is actually just to load it up on a phone and just see how long it takes to go. You know, you'll know yourself. We are all very, very aware of slow websites. We're all very, very aware of slow loading times. Like, you'll know yourself, if you're getting annoyed with your page loading up, you can be guaranteed that other people will be annoyed with it too. And then, of course, everything else that needs to be tested for your development. So if you've got forms in there, if you've got a booking system in there, you need to test that every single way. So if you've got a form in there that you're copying and pasted, and it says that it's got some error handling for email addresses, type in a number. Type in an email address without an @ Try to break it. You know, before you release your website to the world, you try to break it in as many ways as you can, just to make sure that it is robust. And of course, the best way to test your thing, because no matter how well you test it, no matter how well your plan is laid out on how you're going to really test your site, the best way to really test your site is to give your development to someone who has not used it and give them a task to perform, especially someone that falls into your target market. So give it to someone who is most likely going to be one of your users in the future, and just give it to them and just say, listen, can you tell me how this, give them a task, like, could you make a booking on this site for me, please? It's normally best to do with a friend or with a family member or something like that. Just but yeah, you should always try to give it to someone who has not used it before, who's not seen you build it, and just give them a simple task to perform, just to see how they get on. Yeah. And then, of course, we have maintenance. And maintenance is really for you CMS users out there. So if anyone's using WordPress or Joomla and stuff like that, something with a lot of plugins, something that's very easy to update, will then just constantly be logging in, especially if you develop it for another client. So if you're developing WordPress for another client, try to set up in such a way that, you know, the major updates are being applied. If you know, you can even work it into your client brief that you'll check back on their site at least once a year just to perform basic updates, just to make sure it doesn't fall too far behind, and just keep on top of of current news as well. So if you hear that, you know, the WP booking plugin has got a huge security breach because that's what's coming up on your newsfeed, well then, and you know that you developed a site with that, well then you want to get there on there as quickly as possible and fix that up and update that plugin, because it would be terrible to have sites to your name that are being used as attacking platforms. Terrible, terrible, terrible. One day you might get a call from me asking why you're letting your site be used as an attacking platform. So that is all that. So then I just, maintenance, yes. So then just very quickly, let's just take a look at just this diagram here. So the responsive design was, of course, desktop to tablet to mobile, and that was what responsive was, to make it work like that. The new design approach, though, is, of course, mobile first design, where we imagine everything for a mobile, and then it just scales up with our media queries. Now, the RESS, just to show you a nice diagram on it, is we do not it's actually adaptive design. So RESS is adaptive and responsive, so it adapts to the screen. So we use responsive techniques, so it always just fills up the screen and it fills in all the gaps. But we use adaptive design because it will also adapt to the... Oh, oh, sorry, I spelled maintenance wrong. Sorry about that, guys. But RESS will be when we're loading up stuff from the server and onto the phone. And I'll show you what's there. Now, we're not actually going to go into using RESS because it is awfully complicated at the moment. I'll just bring up the page that I was looking at. You can find. I'll paste this onto. I'll paste this article on here. This is an example of RESS loading up images. Yes, so you can see the different sizes that they're loading up. So on a smartphone, it's only loading up, the image quality is only going to load up 30 KB. So this image here, if I was to open up this page on a phone, well, it's only going to take a millisecond to get down 30 KB of that data. I'm using a big screen here, so this is the one that I am watching it on. The 210 KB is the one that I should be downloading there. Let's just have a quick inspect and just take a quick look, just to make sure it's not 117. Anyway, let's take a quick look. How much is that? Does it tell me? It's not telling me very easily. Let me just open link a new tab. Save image. Oh, sorry. I could actually just tell from the width of from the dimensions of the image. So 1382778. So that's the one I'm looking up there. 1322778. So the one that's loading up for me on my giant desktop computer here is the highest quality one. And if I was to load that up on a mobile, and if you were to inspect it, well, then you would actually find that it's only loading up, you know, well, what's needed. And that's the whole thing about web design. We're trying to only deliver what is needed at the moment. Now, people will argue that internet infrastructure is getting better, so there's no need to do this kind of trickery. There's no need to, like, you know, slide out images and stuff like that. I say no, because the less you have your users to download, the more you can actually give them to download. You know, the more features you can pack in there. If you're only loading up, you know, an image that takes up 30 KB, well then you've got loads of space to add more stuff in there. You've got more functionality. You can actually start adding in those hover effects and everything like that to your heart's content when you can get your website running that quickly. So that's something like that. So we'll post that into the Facebook page anyway. So you can take a look at that article. Now, it is complicated to implement. Well, sorry, this one isn't so complicated. All you have to do is just a bit of JavaScript and it's a bit of resolutions. But you know, we are not web developers. We're not web developers. This is something that we would collaborate with a web developer on, and they would handle all this kind of stuff for us. And because that's where this lives. This all lives in the server side, and the server side is all about the developing. So I'll put this in here just so you can take a quick look at what it's all about. Anyway, so I'll just push this over here for a second. So advanced web design, and we'll post this in here. So I can see we have some posts pending, and there's someone trying to become a member. That's fine. I'll get around to that after the class. I'm just going to post this up here now. So that's the adaptive, ADAPTIVE Images, IMAGES. So adaptive images. We see what that can also do. See what we are doing, Wayne, is that what a lot of people are doing is they're reducing the quality of the images, because if you're trying to load up, a lot of landscape images, well then you have to reduce the quality of them. Even on a desktop where they don't come up as great, because you test your speed on the mobile device and you realize, geez, they're not loading up at all. And we've got 60% of users using a mobile device, but the problem is that when they open them up on a desktop, then they don't look as stunning. So what you do is you end up reducing the quality. You try to compromise, but this RESS approach should fix that compromising issue, where you can load up Retina images on a Retina device. If they're using a desktop connected to a Wi-Fi connection, well then of course we can just shoot that up and they can download it straight away, while we can provide the same quality image on a small device as well. So it's really kind of trying to reduce the compromise that we have to make in web design to load up excellent content at in an acceptable time frame. Alright, so I also wanted to show you those, so let me just pull up these applications. So has anyone here taken Julian's web development course? Has anyone here ordered Julian's web development course? Yes? 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 Well guys, I definitely would recommend it. As web developers, I definitely would recommend it, because what you will do, as web designers, and especially if some of you actually take a shine to it. If any of you take a shine to web development, well now that you've got a bit of design down, you can really fly through that. And you can create great stuff with it. You can create very good games with just a bit of JavaScript and just, like click and drag. Most things are, most of the great games out there that have made a fortune are the simplest ones, like Flappy Bird. Are you kidding me? You tap the screen. Does anyone remember the original Flappy Bird out there? Does anyone remember what it used to be? Not the actual app, the Flappy Bird, but can anyone remember that game that was hugely popular in the early noughties on the web? Yes, that's it, Simone. Can anyone else remember that? The helicopter game. Do you all remember that? Where you used to click on the mouse and it was just mouse down with a tiny bit of physics, and it was absolutely gone crazy. Now, we didn't have the App Store back then, so it didn't work as well. Now, what I will do now is I will go to WAMP. And XAMPP. So guys, who out there, so has anyone up there tried to has anyone out there who has taken Julian's course and gone with XAMPP? Have they tried MAMP or WAMP in lieu of it? Because this is the real thing here, because we're not developers, so we might have to go in to fix the port 80 problem. But here are your three options, yeah? You've got MAMP, you've got WAMP, and you've got XAMPP. And they're very simple. All you'll need to do is just install it. So all you'll need to do for next class is just download and install it, because then we're going to go through each step to set up our PHP admin. Because to set up WordPress, to develop with it, what we do need to do is we need to set up a database. Yeah, because WordPress is a content management system and it solves all the problems of us having to deal with PHP and all that kind of stuff, well then we don't need to worry about it. So, but the first thing we have to do is we always have to set up a database, which is annoying, but that's the only thing we really have to touch in the server side end. Yeah. So how was XAMPP setting up for you guys? Was it fairly painless? Yeah? Easy? Alright guys, well listen, that's good feedback. Well, you know what we're going to say then? Well, what we'll say then is that so that we can all work off the same, the same server, we will say to use XAMPP, alright? We will say to use XAMPP. I would recommend, so just for this weekend, don't install MAMP, don't install WAMP. If you do have them installed, if you do have MAMP or WAMP installed, do not install XAMPP. Just keep one of these servers, and then afterwards I would recommend, I'll tell you that next class, but afterwards I would recommend downloading the other servers and trying them out as well. But XAMPP is XAMPP is the extensible one. So XAMPP is operating system independent. So it works on Linux, it works on Windows, it works on Mac. While WAMP is built specifically for Windows. It's Windows, Apache, Windows, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. And then of course we have MAMP, which is Mac, Apache, MySQL, and PHP as well. Yep. Oh yeah, there we have my Apache, MySQL, PHP. In fact, all Macs nowadays should actually have this already built into them. But it's annoying to get into. It's much easier to just use something like like MAMP or WAMP and set it up. So I'll post this in there as well for you now, so you can download it. And all it is you just download it. You click one of these ones. So you'll go to this page. You'll click download for Windows. It will download for you. I will just do this nice and quickly. Ooh, the next course is on the 10th of... The 10th of... Oh yeah, so you might be able to see my screen, but you'll see... I wonder if you can still see that. But, you know, you'll have to say yes to the question. October 4th? October 4th. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at that. Anyway, oh, sorry, you can't see my screen. It's all opening up on my other screen. Important because inactivated. Sorry. Oh, sorry, I've already got XAMPP installed, but it shouldn't matter. Alright, so this is it. So set up XAMPP. Just click OK, just click Next. If we are having any trouble, oh no, sorry, install XAMPP. So I'll just post this one link I'll just post this one link onto our Facebook page so you can have it right now. So here we go. So the reason why I want to show you the other two is just so you're aware, because they all look the same. So you might, if you might see XAMPP and you might think, well, MAMP is no different. But I'd say for us all, just for this Thursday, for when we're setting up our WordPress site, I think because we're going to be dipping into PHP and a bit of database and stuff like that, well, then we're going to all want to kind of work off the same thing just so we can follow on step by step. So XAMPP actually works on Windows, Linux, and Mac, so we can use this one for all of us. And then afterwards, and I'll tell you next class about the benefits of using all different types of servers. Because as web designers, you never know what kind of development you might walk into. Sorry, what's going on here? I want to go into advanced web design. Leave this page. Thank you. So, for example, I started here. I'm a Mac user. You know, like if I had let my Windows skills go down, whoa, it would have been horrible here. Like, granted, I hadn't actually used Windows 10 before, but I spent so much time making Windows 8 actually look like Windows 10, it kind of worked out quite well. But you want to really try to use as many applications as you can. You become great in one, you know, so you become great in one application. So I love Mac. That's just where I operate. I like WordPress, but I especially like to specialize in something like Divi. And I'll show you all the Divi theme, and I should be able to actually give you the Divi theme, but don't hold me to that. I'm going to see what I can do with that in the next class as well. I shouldn't have any trouble. According to their license that I've got my Divi theme on, I should be able to give it to you. But we'll be taking a look at that next class. We'll be taking a look at the licenses that WordPress is covered by to show you how you can share all your work with your clients. So let me just see. This is for THURS days, Thursdays. This is for Thursdays. What am I searching for? Thursdays WordPress course. So I'll say class, CLASS, WordPress class. All right. So I'll post that there. Oh, thank you very much. And I'll stick that in there as well, Marcus. So thank you very much for that. And guys, if you are having any trouble, you can just go ahead and check out that video there as well that Marcus has passed on to us as well. So hopefully that will load up. Alright, so you can take a look there, but also, so if you just install that server, if you are having any trouble, just do email us, and myself and Julian will be able to get back to you on just setting up that server, and then we will break into WordPress in the next course. We're going to install WordPress on our MAMP server, so we're going to install it locally. There's something else I wanted to show you as well, my free hosting account, so free hosting, free online hosting. The one that I found was not that, 000 host seems to be all right, and there was another one that I had researched, but I can't remember what it was. It should actually be open in my browser window here, actually. Let me just, sorry, 2 seconds there. XAMPP. I don't need Facebook open anymore. 8 reasons, business. Biz.nf. And there's another one there for you. So I'll also give these two as well. So guys, if you want to host your Bootstrap sites, I really would highly recommend at this stage to set yourself up some kind of paid server, some kind of shared paid server, just simply so that you can have it all the time. But do search around for some free web hosting if you don't feel that you should go out and buy yourself a shared hosting plan. Go ahead and get yourself 000 web host or biz.nf. Now just X10 hosting is another one as well, according there to Simone. These are the ones that I researched. These are the ones that don't seem to have any adverts, and they don't seem to have anything like that. And I've also noticed that this one here, 000 hosting, has actually got a nice cPanel to get you used to that as well. Let me see, what did I sign up here as? Did I sign up as Bryan? Maybe I signed up as web. let's say I did sign up as a web, so blah, 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 blah. Yeah, perfect. So, yes, so you actually get a nice cPanel with the 000 web hosting, and then of course you can actually just order up a better one. I wouldn't recommend going with 000 web host as a paid person, but you know what, give them all your business for your free hosting. And then of course scroll down here and you can see your file manager. So remember what I said when I showed you the GoDaddy, that there was no exam on GoDaddy because all the cPanels are different. So again, this is a cPanel and their file manager is all the way down here. But you'll notice all the things are pretty much the same. So file manager is file manager, FTP is the file transfer protocol, and all that kind of stuff. So we can go in here. I'll have to type in another password. GoDaddy and GatorHost, HostGator or GatorHost. I remember GatorHost coming out, and they weren't great. I remember GatorHost coming out, and they weren't great. They had a terrible uptime. I know that they've since then really improved their product and really climbed up. I still prefer GoDaddy simply for the customer service. When I actually sign up for something like a server for hosting, I'm really looking for their customer service. I'm looking for a way that if something happens at 2 o'clock in the morning, to one of my clients' websites, because they could be on the other side of the world where it's, you know, afternoon over there, I need to be able to call up someone and have them fix the problem straight away from me. And that's why I do prefer GoDaddy, because they do have unrivaled tech support there, and especially if you are dealing with a few clients, or if you just need anything done that's really needs to get done, you want to call them up and just get it sorted straight away. That's why I like GoDaddy. That's why I have no problem paying that little bit extra for them. GatorHost, if you're able to do it all yourself, if you're not running loads of websites, sure, check it out. Check it out. Just do a little bit of research. So here's 000 web host. I went to the file manager, public HTML. I'm sure I can add all my stuff in there as well. Now there is a 500 megabyte upload limit, so you might find yourself uploading things quite slowly. But hey, you can also convert all your documents. But you know what you can do? You know what you can do actually is what you can do is you could upload all your images here. Yeah. So remember, with CodePen, we need our images to already be hosted on the web, and I couldn't find a great place to host our images. I didn't want to give you any of those kind of things, because every time you host an image, there you actually give them your rights to the image as well, which is very annoying. So this is actually a perfect solution that I might start sharing with the introductory students from now on as well, is 000 web host. We can use it to actually host our images, and then we could hot link from here to our images, because then if our images are right here, they're hosted on the web, and then you'll be able to convert all your projects into CodePen, share them with the world, let other people use your work to share and share alike, and then you'll be able to hot link directly into your 000 web host and have all your images loading up perfectly. So that could be a workaround for you guys as well. So if your project is just too big to upload it bit by bit onto 000 web host, well, you can also convert it to a CodePen and use 000 web host as your image host. In fact, I use our shared server up here all the time. You know, I host Bootstrap off our shared server. In fact, a lot of my images you'll notice a lot of the projects on CodePen, any of my images, they're actually hosted on a shared server that I have as well. So that's really what I'm doing there. GoDaddy servers are based in the USA, they're also based in Asia, and they're based in the EU. They're actually based all around the place. You actually get to choose as well where you want your thing. I'm just going to show you that just before we go. So let me just post this up there as well. So members, 000webhost.com. I go for the free I just go for the free domain. So just take the free domain on 000 web host. No need to pay for a domain, because remember, this is just a testing site. So I've actually taken htmlclub.site88.net. Yeah. So there's no need. This is just our testing server. Remember what I said, that I don't like free hosting. Free hosting is terrible, and there's no don't pay into free hosting, because it's just going to cause you headaches later on. They don't owe you anything, you know. So don't buy into that. But let me just quickly go onto our Facebook page one last time. I'll just post this link here as well, just so you can all have it straight away. So what I would like you to do for next class is definitely set up that XAMPP. If you're having trouble, email us, and myself and Julian will be back in tomorrow, and we'll be able to. I'll be getting back to you, and I'll be asking Julian all your questions. So I'll put that in there as well. So 000 web host, and we've also got this biz.nf. Now I haven't set up an account with these guys, so if you want to try them out, go ahead. And so There we have that as well. So this is what I want you to do for next class, and if you could, it would be absolutely fantastic. Oh, guys, don't use biz.nf. I'm just after sharing this onto Facebook, and it says security check. It looks like a link you're sharing might be unsafe, so I'm going to take that as unsafe. So don't use biz.nf, all right? So don't use biz.nf. Let's just close that down. So we'll leave that off until Facebook approves it as well. So use 000 web host for now. Otherwise, use it just to host your images and then hot link them from CodePen. But I'd love to see some of your designs coming up. So do download a template, come up with a client. If you've got your own business, just start adding stuff in, and just do share your work up there, because now that we're at that stage where we have understood the difference between what is code and what is not code, because that is really the point that you try to get to, where you can look at a document and go, that's the code, that's not the code. Because especially when you get after a few years into it, you're actually spending a lot of your time with the content. Remember, because the internet is all about the content. No one cares about the code underneath the site except for other designers and developers. But the web is for the general public. Yeah, so if someone comes onto your website, no one except for myself and a few select other people are right-clicking to see how you've done it, are taking the time to really appreciate it. But believe me, we do right-click, we do love to go underneath, and we do see the elegance in your designs, and we do see the hard work that you put into it. But the majority of users, 99% of them, are looking at the pretty colors. So just be aware of that. So let me just see. Yeah, so if you made a website from scratch, go ahead and use 000 web host to put it up there. Or else, if you have taken the time to make it from scratch this year, purchase yourself a nice shared domain and have that up there forever, where you can host all your stuff. Why would we want to use Bootstrap rather than the Coral Surfshack responsive code we learnt? I'm sorry, Alfred, could you rephrase that just ever so slightly? Just so, why did we use the Bootstrap over the HTML5 template? Let me see. Wait a second, just B-R-A-C-K-E-T-S, because we can use whatever we want. Bootstrap is already included in CMS. Remember, guys, Bootstrap is just a CSS framework. Bootstrap is just a style sheet. Yeah? Bootstrap is just a style sheet. So because WordPress handles all the PHP, it also handles all the templates and everything like that. So if you have purchased a theme, you don't have any say really over it. Like, you don't need to add Bootstrap in. And you wouldn't want to add Bootstrap into a theme. If a theme isn't using Bootstrap and you've downloaded the theme, unless you build that theme for yourself from scratch, you don't want to use it. So let's take a quick look here. So you can take something like this. So you see, we do have header tags up here. We do have a lot of divs. We have sections, and we have a lot of divs again. But these divs, these are all HTML5 tags in here. Let me just take a quick look down. Yeah, the section tag. It could be marked up a little better, but you see, this is a template as well, guys. So remember, so we just ran through this template, but remember what I said, that after we run through it, what I like to do is I like to go down and I start doing it again, and I do it again. Because remember, web design does take time. We did this in 2 hours, but a general site could take, a minimum of 20 hours hard labor is really what you're looking at when you're doing this kind of coding. And even when you're using WordPress, you want to put about 20 hours into a site, because just because you can develop faster doesn't mean that you should stop earlier. 20 hours is a good amount of time to put into any development. 20 hours to actually build a site is actually a very nice set amount of time to actually put into it. It means that you're covering everything. You've given you enough time to do the you've given enough time to optimize the images, you've given enough time to check the code, check out your tags and stuff like that. So say if I was doing this and I went up again, well, then I go down and I start seeing, well, where can my article tags fit in? Is any of this an aside? Could I wrap something in a side and take it out altogether? There's stuff like that you can do, but that's really just going over and optimizing your site. Of course, you can go the other way and build it absolutely from scratch, but you're certainly not going to get to this level of quality in 20 hours. So it really comes down to the development you want to build, how much time you have, and how much money your client is willing to give you. Yeah. So the website you're trying to build, how much time you have, and how much money you are able to get for it. Does Bootstrap include animation? Bootstrap does include a bit of animation. I'm pretty sure. No, Bootstrap sometimes includes animate.css. or animate.js. That's just another thing as well. There shouldn't be any animation in Bootstrap. Well, sorry, there should be a tiny bit of animation. You know, the tiny bit of animation that's included in their CSS. Bootstrap is like a. Let me think. What is Bootstrap like? Bootstrap is really just a style sheet. You know, it's just like you can write your own Bootstrap. If you write a perfect style sheet that kind of conforms to everything, and you write all the media queries on how things can adapt to the screen and everything, you just stick that online and you call it whatever you want. You call it Alfred style. Alfred style. Yeah? And then people just download Alfred styles because CSS is cascading, and because it doesn't need, and because we can have multiple rules targeting one element, and then one of them wins. That's the beauty of the cascading style sheets. The cascading part of it is that we can attach multiple style sheets to one document, and one rule would always win out. So that's the beauty of it. So Bootstrap is just a framework to give us a better starting point. It's almost like a better boilerplate. All right. So guys, I will run now. I will start running now. I will go and catch my train. But listen, go ahead. I want you to download those that XAMPP. I want you to try to install it. If you are having any trouble at all, please do email us, and we'll get back to you tomorrow on how to fix it. Especially if any of you get that port 80 error. Oh, quick note: if you are using Skype, close down your Skype application before installing XAMPP. Just close it down. I saw some troubleshooting that kept mentioning Skype, so do close down Skype. Install XAMPP, and do try to get your designs. So if any of you have been developing with Bootstrap, any of your designs out there that you thought were too heavy for CodePen, set yourself up that free hosting package, and either upload your thing to there, share it on our Facebook groups, or else upload your images there, converge to CodePen, and again, just share it with the class. Just let everyone see what we're doing here as well. So guys, listen, absolutely fantastic. I can't wait till next class. We're all going to be, so next class we're going to have, so we've covered WordPress. Next class we'll also have covered WordPress as well, so we'll have all that kind of stuff under our belt, be well on our way to really designing, and then we've got another full 2 weeks left to cover even more stuff again. So everybody out there, have a very good morning, very good afternoon, very good evening, and a very good night, everybody.